Good morning. In this episode, we're going to be giving away 2 starter sets of Dust Tactics, or as it's now also called, Dust Battlefield. If you want to find out how to win them, and you'll get both, yes, you'll get both, stay tuned to the show. We'll be telling you a bit later on. Good morning! Welcome to the Weekender! We got a biggie! It's 7th edition day! Yep. My copy hasn't arrived yet. I'm joined by Jono.
Hello.
The Maestro.
Maestro?
And that.
That? Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well,
Hello, everybody.
You see, the Addams family have thing.
So I'm that.
We have that.
Oh, it's it. Is it not it?
It's
cousin it?
It. Yes, but thing is the hand.
Oh, thing is the hand, right, yeah.
We have the head. Okay. Anyway.
Thank you.
Yes, it's 7th edition day. And we have started building our 40k table. Over the weekend, a hobby lab went out to the Backstagers, which was showing some of the techniques that we've been using on this. We have a few techniques that we're going to be showing via Hobby Lab on how we built an epic, mega city table. With 7th edition coming out, we needed a new table to roll it out.
Yeah.
And with Dust Tactics and Dust Battlefield, stay tuned, we're going to be talking more about Dust Battlefield in a minute, coming out. Mm-hmm. We needed a new epic city table.
And you have been talking about doing this for years.
Oh, it's been way too long.
Yeah.
So it's a tutorials, it's a series of techniques and tutorials that we've wanted to bring to camera for ever, and now we're finally getting to do it. So what you see here is in various different stages, and none of it's finished yet. But by the time it's finished, I think we'll have a tasty 8x4 gaming table.
Yeah,
and 8x4 you're going to need it because the way Games Workshop have been going. There will be a rule saying thou shalt not play on anything less than 8x4 moving forward. But they'll insist that we have to buy Realm of Battle boards. But we have something much, much cooler if you follow this tutorial.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
If you fancy watching that, the 7-day free trial has been a great success.
Excellent.
So we introduced last week a 7-day free trial to Backstage.
If you missed it, too bad.
It's been a great success. We had a slight bug with it where people were able to sign up to the trial but hadn't signed up to Beasts of War, so then never the twain shall meet. So we had to go back through and fix it so that you couldn't actually take the 7-day free trial until you had set up an account on Beasts of War, and then you can take the 7-day free trial. We're going to post the link below on YouTube in the notes, Justin.
Yes, I know.
And on Beasts of War. So for all you existing members of Beasts of War, you can give it a go as well. So if you haven't joined Backstage and you fancy checking out our Hobby Lab series, which is pretty awesome, if I do say so myself, along with some of the other cracking content that we have in there. Like we have metric tons of content in Backstage now and tons on the way. If you want to give it a go, now's your chance to try it out for 7 days. If you don't like it, just cancel it. And if you do like it, it'll take care of it and it'll change you into a subscriber and continue.
All right, so this is something that people can go back into now.
Yep.
All right, sorry, I thought we had a set period of 7 days.
No. You can. If you're a Backstager, obviously you can't do it. But for anybody that isn't a Backstager and is or will become a free member of Beasts of War, you can click that link and bang, you'll get 7 free days. And then at the end of the 7 free days, if you haven't cancelled, it'll then convert you into just a normal subscriber.
Okay. I thought we were doing it date to date, not just click and begin.
No. It's you can click and begin, so you can get stuck into that. So it's Saturday morning.
Yep.
Postman hasn't arrived yet.
Yeah, I'm surprised we're not just.
Honestly, guys, I'm telling you now, right? If there's a knock at the door of the studio while we're filming this, I'm off out of here to get back.
First bit of the show.
I am so looking forward to this. It's 6th edition, I was excited about 6th edition. We did, the how to plays and stuff like that. We're going to do the same thing for 7th if Jervis Johnson doesn't beat us to it, in which case we'll just put his up, but we'll activate comments so we can talk about it. If we're not beaten to it, we're definitely going to do that. And I'm just really excited about it. I'm starting to get my 40k mojo, and yeah, it's all good. I'm looking forward to it. The one thing that we have seen, and this is very interesting, is the new Allies Matrix is out. And some of the changes, we have a picture of it up there for you to have a look at. Some of the changes is much more straightforward now for the armies of the Imperium. So Space Wolves can actually now be battle brothers with Black Templars and stuff.
Yeah, or such as a battle, Imperial Guard.
There's no more Tau and Eldar, so that whole Taudar kind of thing that was going on there.
We're maybe seeing the timeline move forward where that is broke.
Yeah, I hope so. It would be great to see some new stories. And Jervis has been talking about, the whole desperation of the story now, and that's also reflected in the new ally charts by this last setting called Come the Apocalypse.
Yes.
Okay, which means that any army can ally with any other army. You get some major penalties.
Yeah.
Okay. But it is now possible, even for Tyranids. Gene Stealer cults, here I come. Gene Stealer cults, here I come.
How does a Tyranid negotiate with a guardsman to say we're going to fight with you for a couple of days before we eat you?
It's very simple. The Tyranid has a phallus-like thing.
Right.
That it
Knew where that was going.
sticks into the guard.
You've read Cian.
Right, yeah.
The guard, he goes, whoo!
That was a surprise.
And then he up a bit, and then he kind of mind melds into the hive fleet.
Yeah.
And then he goes and he picks up his las cannon, and he makes a run for it. Way in the distance is Sci-Fi Kane, who's already made a run for it.
And it's Matthias.
He makes a run. Don't correct me, boy. Don't correct me.
I'm sorry, I've read the phonetic translation. Screw you.
So, yes, I cannot wait. Gene Stealer cults are now a go. But to be fair, we could probably have come up with some other way to do Gene Stealer cults anyway. But it's nice to be able to have some guards that are kind of worshippers of the hive and stuff like that. How cool is that? I missed that in 6th edition because I remember clearly making my 6th edition videos and looking at the allies chart and going, oh, no Gene Stealer cults. Well, now we can do it. And there's all sorts of other weird things that we could do, like orcs and Sisters of Battle, getting it on. Yeah, it's all going weird now.
Wrong with you?
In Lenten. I'm just excited, man. I'm just really, really excited about it.
I can see that.
So this whole Come the Apocalypse thing, there was a little write-up in White Dwarf about it where they were talking about, times are that bad now that even the most unlikely of allies could ally.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, in the 40k timeline, are we not sort of hitting the point where the Emperor is either meant to step off the Golden Throne or die?
No, he's never going to step off the Golden Throne. He's got his newspaper. He's got a big thing of bog roll beside him. He's there for good.
Yep.
The more cynical among us might look at this allied thing and go, yes, it could be all those things that Warren's just said that are all nice and fluffy and narrative, or it could just be that Games Workshop want to give you absolutely no excuse to buy the latest cool models that come out. So if you want to ally your Tau with your Dark Eldar, because you like the models, well, now you can.
Yep.
And to be fair, there's probably a massive, massive dollop of that included in there as well.
Well, how many players do we know that don't have more than one army?
Oh, very few. Most of us collect at least a couple of armies.
Yep.
And the lucky among us will collect maybe a couple of armies and buy some of the other bits and pieces that they think is cool because they want to build it and paint it, or they think, I'm going to come to that army at some point later on. I'll get the battle box, or I'll get that new Riptide or something.
For those that are married out there, it's just, the missus won't notice that this one box has came in this month. Oh, 2 months later, this box came in. Honey, by the way, I have this army.
You got to be careful because they do notice.
They find out there is a way.
Yeah. So it's all really, really cool stuff on the way. Maybe tomorrow I'll try and settle down. Maybe tomorrow I'll have my book. Because I am hoping to have it today. We'll start to look at it, and we'll be posting in the forums and stuff like that on Beasts of War, talking about it, and we'll have to wait and see where it goes. I don't expect there to be. I was going to say I don't expect there to be huge changes with the rules. Some of the changes are pretty huge in themselves, but I don't think an awful lot of the mechanics outside of the whole psychic phase thing are going to change too much.
I do like the fact that they've broke it up into 3 books now, though.
Do you like that?
It makes it less intimidating.
I can already
instead-
imagine which book isn't going to sell as much.
Well, I would say the Miniatures Gallery one.
Yeah.
Which
But
is...
you can't buy them separately.
So what, it's all just one big pack that you have to buy?
Well, what's in the collector's edition then? The one that has 3 books.
It's just the same 3 books in a fancier box.
Right.
But what are the 3 books? Do you have to buy them all together?
Yeah,
They don't sell them separately?
You get a box. Forget about the collector's edition. It's £200 worth of pointless. All right.
Yep.
For the mortals among us, we're just going to buy the standard box set.
Yep.
Okay. And the standard box set has quite an awesome looking sleeve. It's a beautiful looking package, I've got to say. So it's an awesome looking sleeve, 3 books. Core rules.
Yep.
Sorry, sneezing.
Background and fluff, and then 144 pages of hobby stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's I'm glad to see it, but they're not the first to do it. Battlefront did that.
Yeah.
Battlefront split out hobby from core rules.
Yep.
And did a double book pack, which was amazing. It was really good.
Was that
for
the
Flames of War?
D-Day landing one? If I remember
No,
correctly.
the Flames of War
campaign.
core rulebook.
Oh,
the
right.
main rulebook is split into volumes.
Yep.
And this new split out for workshop, well, they were getting to the stage that, let me grab this. Careful, John. Oh, so easy.
Might enjoy that too much.
This is their outgoing rulebook.
Yes. I'm glad I'm sitting over here because I think you hit somebody in the head with that when you first got your hands on it.
Yes. You see, I have a tradition whenever rulebooks are passing on.
It must be tested.
It must be tested. I'm not going to get to do that. There we go. So this is the 6th edition rulebook. And you can see how thick it is.
It's hefty.
You know?
It's
Let me get
hefty.
on to there. There's how thick that is.
Well,
Justin is intimidated by the girth of that book. I'm not surprised, Justin.
I look at that and I think, holy crap, where do I begin?
Well, you typically open
At let's
it
say,
up
don't be pedantic.
and you
Do
start
not
to-
be pedantic.
You start to flick through it like that. Anyway, or you do what the most sensible of us do, and you
skip to the
go
rules.
you script to the rules, which is on page
Perhaps check the contents.
2.
Is there actually a
you
contents page?
skip all that there at the front. Anyway, where was I? The rulebook is expanding. Okay, it's getting to the point where it is ridiculous to be carrying something like that around. If it got much thicker than that, it may as well be like,
In a church on a pulpit.
yes, on a pulpit.
Yeah.
It should come with a free pulpit.
Yeah.
And then you have to carry it.
The special edition, probably for £200, you could probably buy a pulpit cheaper than £200. So, it makes sense for them because they throw more and more and more at it. So it does make sense for it to be split up. And then you just carry about the bit that you need. So, I'm looking forward to it. Okay. The other thing was there was rumours of the new starter set. And there was talk of the new starter set being Blood Angels versus Orcs.
Yep.
On the topic of Orcs, okay, I have something very, very cool to show you. Jono, if I can give you that. This is the new Aegis Defense Line Orc themed from Cromlech. And I've got to tell you, as Aegis Defense Lines go, no Orc wants to be seen behind a measly, oomy defense line. They want something proper Orcified.
Yep.
Okay, something terrifying with a little can where they can stick a grot in it, and he can just poke out there and shoot his pea shooter at him. So this is sculpted. It's in resin. There's some beautiful details on it. You know, you have the glyphs on there. You have at the back, you've got little platforms that they can stand on. It's measured out, so you get exactly what you would get in the Aegis Defense Line package. So you get 4 of your long ones. Let me show you some of the details on it. This one has a kind of like an earth drill here. It has posts on the other side, barrels and things that are embedded into the ground. This one has some spare wheels from a truck and plenty more platforms for your orcs to stand on. And then finally, we have this one here with a kind of what looks like a bit of a smokestack. More cables and wires, and another platform. To give you an idea of that platform, what it looks like, I have an orc here to give you some scale. So that's a standard orc in there. Let me bring my big guy in. Awesome stuff, awesome stuff, because really no orc wants to stand behind something tame and useless that an Umi would build. Okay, so that is the Aegis Defense Line for orcs. Now, Aegis Defense Lines became a huge thing in 6th edition. I say a huge thing, huge in so much as that they were very, very common. Lots of people would take them. And I'm not surprised. They were 50 points, okay? And 50 points give you a great cover save, but it also gives you some tactical options, okay? Some of the tactical options that I've been quite interested in with the Aegis Defense Line is clearly you could do your big kind of like circle in the middle of the board. You've spent your 50 points on it, and you just put a bunch of guys in there, and you have an arc of fire around the whole thing. It's a fairly standard way to use it, but there are a couple of more interesting ways that I like, okay? One involves creating 2 distinct arcs of fire. Now, I'm doing this quite close together here on this board. In reality, you would spread this out, so one would be quite over that side of the board, the other would be over on this side of the board. And what you're trying to do is to create a funnel, okay? And what you want is to funnel your opponent in between these and put your fire teams in there, so you have arcs of fire all the way out, okay? You might give them a bit more defense to the front, but you're so far over that they would have to outflank you to really cause you problems.
Yeah,
and you've got
I'm actually not sure if you're able to split it up or if it has to be a continuous line.
No, you can split them.
Fair enough.
So you can split them up, and you're putting your fire teams in there. If you can't, I've been playing it all wrong, guys. So if you can't actually split them, post in the comments below. But as far as I'm aware,
if you had fun with it, it doesn't really matter.
And then here's one that I think is particularly cool. Now, this involves having three categories of troops, okay? 2 sets of shooty troops and one more kind of close combat-y, okay? And what you do is you set up on your front line, say, 2 of those somewhere, okay? And you put your cheaper shooty troops behind that. Okay? At the back of the board, okay, you set up another set, same way, okay, but further back, and you put your more expensive kind of, like your las cannon troops and stuff
your
like
heavy
that.
weapons.
Yeah. So you put them back there, okay, so they're more expensive stuff. And then in this gap here, put your close combat counter-attackers.
Right.
So what you're doing is you have annoying shooty troops there that you're inviting your opponent.
Come and kill us. We're cheap and we're crap.
They're going to be slowed down firstly by the Aegis Defense Line. Then they have to get into combat with the guys behind it, and then you counterattack.
We have 2 runs on in.
Yeah. And I happen to think that that's cool. It's 50 points for an Aegis Defense Line, but every Aegis Defense Line should spend another 50 points and get itself a quad gun.
Yep.
How cool would it be if we had an orcified quad gun?
Yeah, I actually do love this because it doesn't look as if any of the components for the wall are repeats.
No, each piece is completely unique. Each piece is completely unique. Well, it just so happens, Mr. Justin, that we do have
big
an
and shiny.
orcified quad gun. This thing here is a piece that you could use as a quad gun, Okay, same as these pieces here, you could use as an Aegis defense line, but this piece you could use as a quad gun, and it's available from Monday. So if you fancy getting your hands on one of these, they'll be on the Cromlech site on Monday. And let me just show you the details on this. It's absolutely beautiful. Now the quad gun itself is an awesome piece of kit. Probably the most versatile of them. You know, some guys like to take the Icarus Las cannon because it's pretty devastating.
It's a bit more punchy.
But the quad gun's very good for anti-air, and we all know there's a lot of air stuff running around in 40k these days, so it's very good for that. And I've got to say, this thing looks so hot to me. I just cannot wait. So, you know, give you an idea of some scale. That's our orcs in and around it there. So I'll get them in.
So would this be crewed by your grots? Or oh no, it's just whoever's in base contact, doesn't it?
Yeah, whoever's in base contact, and that includes your opponent.
Yeah,
So your opponent can't turn it round on you.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I do remember a couple of interesting conversations with a mate of mine. We suggested having you had little Tyranid swarms.
Yeah.
Have one of them bomb it up the field and fire it back at you.
So you could probably do the same thing with scarabs then for the Necrons as well.
Aye, so the
And
little
they'd get
scarab
that cover save on the way up, you know. So yeah.
Bump.
So there you have it. I think it's a cracking piece of kit. I think it's one of the nicest orc sculpts. The level of detail in it is absolutely extraordinary. I don't even know if the camera's doing it justice there. It's got so much on it.
It's quirky, but without taking away from the sort of functional look of it.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's also solid while still looking ramshackle.
Yeah, it is ramshackle, but as John says, it looks the business.
It looks like it can do its job.
Yeah.
So there we have it. And I don't know at this stage, maybe you will, because you're probably sitting there having your toast and reading the book that you got and still hasn't arrived for me yet. I don't know if the Aegis defense lines and stuff like that is going to change in 7th edition. I hope not. But yeah, if you're interested, it may be the last thing you ever look at in your 6th edition book, page 114. Your Aegis defense lines in there, and if it's something by this stage that you've never used, I imagine they'll be a big part of 7th edition as well. So it's worth checking that out if you're an orc player. One last thing, I don't want to miss out Dark Eldar, because also released, just out from MicroArts Studios, is a kit that could be used for an Aegis defense line for the Dark Eldar.
Right.
And where do you get a look at this bad boy?
Oh, okay.
Now this
Be warned, spikes.
is terrifying. Look at that. So if you are a Dark Eldar player and you fancy getting a nice themed piece of kit that you could use in your games and stab yourself on, or claw a mate to death with it,
Yep.
this is the way to go. Again, I think that is an absolutely cracking piece of kit.
I was about to say you could use it for Eldar as well, and then I saw the spikes.
Yeah, no, it is very clearly something designed for the Dark Eldar,
Yeah.
and I think it's absolutely awesome.
Very cool.
So let's put that over to one side because I want to continue my chat. As I had said, there was rumors floating around about the new starter set. Okay, every time Games Workshop brings out a new set of rules, they follow it up with a new starter set. And in the last weekender, we were talking about how we had, up till that point, heard that Fantasy had been shelved, wasn't likely to come out this year. We were speculating as to why 40k had been brought so far forward, because new editions don't normally release until the summer, and then in September you would get the new starter set.
Yeah.
So we talked about how they may be clearing the calendar for something Hobbity related.
Yeah,
at
for
the end of the
Christmas
year.
time.
Now you can bet your bottom dollar there's something Hobbity related at the end of the year, that we know. However, I'm now hearing that we could well be seeing Fantasy this year as well. So both 40k and Fantasy
in the same year.
In the same year.
That's odd.
Well, think about this, okay? The new starter set for 40k, I have it.
Okay, who'd you kill?
I have a copy of it here.
Who did you kill?
Do you want to see it?
Yeah, get it out. Who'd you kill?
Okay, so the new starter set for 40k, I can greatly announce, is this.
That's the old one.
Yes, this is Dark Vengeance.
Yes.
It turns out that Games Workshop are sticking with Dark Vengeance.
Right.
And all that's going to change is the rulebook. Now let's think about this for a second. Going to get our conspiracy theory hats on.
Right.
In the last weekender, we were talking about how this may have been a straight business decision by Games Workshop to pull 40k forward by a couple of years to try and shore up an issue that was somewhere in their, in their finances. That basically the last set of public results caused a bit of a drop. It didn't really look like it was going particularly well. It didn't look awful either. They made a profit. That company could probably go to sleep and still make a profit. But its products are that good. But it's clearly something wasn't working.
So is this them perhaps hunting for that new book boost in sales?
That's what I'm wondering. I'm wondering. Has it been brought forward? Has this been kind of pushed through? Because a book is not a hard thing for a company like Games Workshop to develop.
Yeah, but
they're also a very, very high margin product. A very high margin product.
But does that then run the risk of bringing the new rule set out before it's ready?
No. A company like Games Workshop could write a rule set every year if they wanted to. It's would the gaming community want that? Absolutely not. But would it be feasible for them to do it? Yeah, technically they could do it.
Well, fair enough.
So this to me, there is talk of them going to this kind of living rule book type thing, okay? Where they're going to be introducing kind of more updates more rapidly, okay?
Right.
But I don't know. It could, like I said in the last episode, it could all have been part of the grand plan that they had decided, after 6th edition launch, do you know what? Let's do 7th edition earlier. Let's change our whole process for this. Let's create an environment where we release rule books more often, so that we have a 6th edition rulebook. We have 7th that sticks with the 6th edition box. Because remember, this box, the tooling for this box is incredibly expensive, and it'll take some time for this box to have made the return on investment.
Basically to pay itself back.
Yeah, well, it'll have paid itself back in the opening weeks, but it has a lot more profit to make before they need to change this. Because remember, when they change this, they dump the tools, they dump everything.
Really?
Yes, well, it's not used anymore. So it's all gone. The investment is over.
Right.
There's a lot of more profit to be made with Dark Vengeance. It's a fantastic kit. If you are watching this because you're looking to get into 40k now, you're hearing the banter about 7th edition and you're thinking to get in, I couldn't recommend Dark Vengeance enough as a way to go. In fact, I'll quickly show you a couple of components. Clearly, all the paper stuff, yeah, you don't need that. You get your templates in there, you get whippy sticks. Almost got him. Man, this has been the worst gaming invention in the world, the whippy stick. But here we get to the meat of it. These sprues here, that's $250,000 worth right there. Okay? If you were going to try and create these sprues and you were going to do it with an outside party, I would say you're looking about, maybe 180 grand.
Not including the sculpting and the
Not
development.
including the sculpting. That would just be, I would say, I'd mostly be down to the tooling and stuff like that.
So
there.
getting the production run up and going.
Yeah. As starter sets go, there are better starter sets in terms of the entire package.
Yep.
Like I prefer the entire package of Open Fire for Flames of War.
Yep.
And I have to mention the best starter set in the business at the moment, which is Drop Zone Commander. But in terms of plastics, there's no better out there at the moment. As starter sets go, this is the business. It's the creme de la
I don't
creme.
know. I like the Wild West Exodus starter set because it's very clean as well, and it is all plastic too.
It's very, very good. But this one definitely pips it in terms of starter sets. So in there are 4 unique sprues. They're staying with us. It's got to be asked though. It has got to be asked. Is this a sign of them trying to repair something? Or are they moving to this living rulebook thing? Could we see that we're going to now see interim rulebooks on the second year? Do you know what? If we did, I think that might be quite interesting. I quite like the idea of a 6th edition rulebook, or then an interim rulebook, which would be the 7th edition. So it would just be the rules package that you would buy. You don't need starter sets and stuff like that. They all stay the same. And then 2 years from now, we see 8th edition with a new starter set.
Yes, but with it
certainly freshens things, doesn't it?
But with it becoming a living rule set, does it then become just 7th edition, that's the end? Can you call it 8th edition whenever it is just updating?
I don't think they're going to go to a completely living rule set. There's talks about them doing updates to the digital books. They certainly are pushing the digital books, and for very good reason. They're a very profitable thing.
Yeah.
You know, on books, there's no VAT and stuff on books. You know, do not underestimate how profitable books can be, provided you can sell them. But for every unit sold, there's a really good margin on them. On digital books, there's VAT, so there is a heavier tax burden of like 20% on it. However, the cost of distribution is nearly zero.
Yep.
You know, it's you pay Apple or whoever's disseminating it their cut, but
there's no printing, there's no shipping.
There's no manufacturing, there's no logistics. When it's there, it's there. Is there an increase in piracy? Not really so much, you know, because people have been scanning and uploading books to the interwebs for years. So I don't think it hurts them in any sense, because there's pretty good DRM on these things these days. So it's one of those things. Where are we at with it? Are we seeing a company that is desperately trying to increase the sales this year so as it doesn't have two bad reports in a year, or in succession? Maybe. I don't think so. I think more likely what we're seeing is that Games Workshop realizing, that the 4-year cycle may benefit sales-wise, because that is their primary concern, may benefit from a kind of like a refresh, a lick of paint at the midpoint. And if that's the case, that's cool too. That is cool. We will see. When we all get our 7th edition books and we start rattling it out, we'll see. But I think it creates buzz in the community. The community's been lapping this up now for about the last month and a half. If it creates a better game, so that's a great thing as well. However, it does create an environment where codexes are going to be put under more and more pressure. Because I've never seen a 4-year cycle where every codex has managed to get an update. 6th edition we thought was going to be finally the cycle where every codex was going to get an update, and it never happened. We're not too far. There's no really old codexes out there anymore. Once Tau were done, Sisters of Battle have basically been done, Grey Knights have been done, so there's no really old codexes out there. Even Black Templars were done. So
they were rolled into the main Space Marine one.
So there you have it.
The question then is, will 7th edition just be a retool and repackage of 6th edition?
Well, clearly it's not, because clearly the likes of the
there are changes.
Yes, the psychic phase, for example, is, I think, a major change, and I think it'll be a very positive change for the game. Once we get our heads around it, that is. I don't think it's going to be rocket science to play the psychic phase, but what it will do is, and this is what I suspect that the game designers intended, is they wanted us to notice the psychers more. They wanted the psychers to be able to stand out and be, I don't know, more epic. And this is one way to do that, by giving the psychers a phase of their own. You then start to get these big psychic battles where
you're drawing that to the forefront.
I'm trying to cast some kind of psyker attack. you're trying to dispel it, and you start getting the psychers battling with one another. I think it's a very interesting thing to do in the phase. Is it more interesting than switching it over to an alternate phase sequence?
Activation?
Yeah, I think that would have been more interesting. I think that would have been more engaging for the game if they had went for alternate activation. But I suspect they won't do that now. I suspect that what's likely to happen is that because so many other games, great games like Infinity, Bolt Action, are using this alternate activation, that it becomes 40K's unique selling point now that it doesn't.
Maybe.
So we'll have to wait and see. So there we have it. It's exciting times. Still no Postman, so that means I'm going to stick around for a bit. After the break, we're getting into Dust.
Yes.
Oh boy, the Kickstarter's upon us. The Kickstarter's on fire. There's some really interesting stuff to discuss on this. And we have our Dust competition where you could win 2 starter sets of your choice. So, we'll be right back after this. And welcome back. So, if you don't know by now, you've been living under a rock, but Dust has went to Kickstarter. Okay? This has been one of the most interesting Kickstarters for me in a long time. And the reason for this is a lot of the Kickstarters are by smaller companies, getting established.
Yeah.
They don't have any kind of existing infrastructure in place.
Yeah.
So it clearly is kickstarting. Now Dust is in this kind of interesting position, in that the studio, Dust Studio, is actually quite a small studio. Paolo and the crew there have these wonderful imaginations, and they make probably some of the best miniatures on the market. These we're going to show you off some of the tanks and walkers and stuff in this, because there's even articulated pieces on them. So if something can move in real life, they'll design it so that it moves on the model. It's really, some would say overkill, others would just say awesome. But they also have this partnership with Battlefront, who make Flames of War. And Battlefront are now the guys that are handling the global distribution and support for the game. So previously it had all been handled by Fantasy Flight Games, who did a big old launch for the whole thing of Dust. They created a new variant of Dust called Dust Warfare, and then it all kind of went a bit quiet. There wasn't a mad, crazy amount of support. To be fair to Fantasy Flight, they had other runaway hits on their hands, like X-Wing and stuff like that. And traditional war games, what Dust would, and certainly Dust Warfare would have fell into, to be fair, that's not really
what Fantasy Flight does most often.
Yeah, no, that's not saying they couldn't do it. They're an amazing company. Let's be honest. They have incredible talent. But I'm not sure if it exactly kind of fitted with the skills and what they're currently good at. So, this year, Battlefront took it over towards the end of last year. Now, what happened was that Battlefront took over Dust Tactics in terms of the distribution and support for the game. However, Dust Warfare is still owned by Fantasy Flight. So Fantasy Flight clearly will not be making another Dust Warfare. And Battlefront can't make a Dust Warfare because it's owned by Fantasy Flight. So you have this situation where there's a hell of a lot of Dust Warfare players out there, very, very passionate about the Dust universe. Dust Tactics itself is played on a grid, so it's a bit more board game-esque.
Yeah, it's a different feel of game.
Yeah. So you have these guys, Dust Warfare, who are, a bit in limbo. It's like we did the demo game. We recorded the demo game of Dust Tactics, and we've been talking about Dust Tactics for a little while now, in unboxings, and people have been screaming at us, why aren't you doing Dust Warfare? And really, we just needed to let it sit for a little while to see how it would thresh out, to see what would happen, with Dust Warfare. I'm now confident to know that, Battlefront and Dust Studio don't have Dust Warfare. Fantasy Flight do. Will Fantasy Flight do anything with it? Absolutely not. I think we can be pretty guaranteed of that now. So, what Dust have done is two things. Firstly, they've released battle cards for Dust Warfare. Okay? So, for all the stuff that has been released since it moved from Fantasy Flight, there are now complete decks that you can buy with all the battle cards in them for the entire things. So if you want to play Warfare, Battlefront have got your back. They're still trying to support those guys that want to play Warfare as best they can, bearing in mind that they can't just go off and create a Warfare game.
They can't go for 2.0 on it.
Yeah, they can't. They can't release another version of it, but they are trying to help you. However, the other really exciting thing is that Dust Studio teamed up with some of the game writers behind Flames of War and have created the new Dust Tactics Rulebook. This is not Dust that you have played before. This is new Dust, okay? So if you've tampered with the game before, if you've played Warfare, whatever, this is not it. This is entirely new. So the first page of this book is fascinating, okay? I'll let them see it. So here you have Dust Tactics, and here you have the new Dust Battlefield. Two games in one book that basically use exactly the same rules. They use the same miniatures, they use the same core rules, they use the same unit cards and stats, and they use the same dice, but if you graduate from Dust Tactics, which believe me, you'll pick up pretty quickly, go and check out the demo game by me and Lloyd. You'll pick this game up pretty quickly. If you graduate from that, you can then move on to Dust Battlefield, where you can start to play a real war game with all the three-dimensional terrain.
So if you've been skirting the edges of wargaming for a while and you want to try and get into it, you can get in with Tactics and then graduate on up to full wargame.
So if Dust has been something that has been catching your eye for a while, now's probably a good time to hop on board. There's a Kickstarter going on. That Kickstarter is doing very well, and that Kickstarter is enabling Dust Studio to massively increase the amount of product that they'll be able to release. The other interesting thing is because Battlefront are behind it, there's they bring two things to the table. One is their whole kind of logistics, right? So they were able to basically allow Dust to get all around the world very easily because they have all the containers and everything moving around there. That's old hat to those guys. They have their own distribution channels. Yep. So what they did, and if you're a store owner or you have a local store that you care about, prick your ears up. This is a Kickstarter with a difference. Okay? Now, we've talked in the past on the show about how Kickstarters are a little bit at odds with the independent stores because we find a lot of the early adopters who would previously have pre-ordered through their stores are going direct to Kickstarter
and cutting out,
feeding the manufacturer, which is no bad thing, let's be honest. We're getting great products as a result of it. But the stores are not getting that initial pre-order hit that they might have got. But to be fair to the stores, they were never going to get it because the products would never have been as big as what they were.
or they might not have existed at all.
Battlefront have come up with their own take on this. Battlefront, there's probably, I don't want to say there's no other company. There are few other companies that care about their retail network as much as Battlefront do. Those guys work tirelessly with their stores to try and make sure that their stores stay healthy and make some money, which we all want to see. We want our little local stores and things like that to be able to,
it's one of the primary places people will play.
Yeah, you want them to flourish. So what they've done is they've created an opt-in thing for stores, right? where if you're a store, you can get in on this Kickstarter by basically running it yourself, okay? So every single product or pledge that's on the Kickstarter, okay, you can run through your store at exactly the same price, but you'll get it at trade prices. So you'll get your little cut on this to make it worth your while. The guys will be able to come into the store, support the Kickstarter at the same time as supporting your store.
That's clever.
Oh, it gets even better. And there's no shipping. So the guys on the Kickstarter are having to pay shipping. Okay? If they go via a store, Battlefront's distribution network gets it to the store, so the end customer doesn't have to pay any shipping. And he'll get his stuff in the store at exactly the same time as the Kickstarters get their stuff. It's a massive global take on Kickstarters with stores involved. I think it's awesome. Now, will it work? Do you know what? Only time will tell on that. We'll have to wait to the end of the Kickstarter, wait to the actual delivery period, and then we'll find out whether it works or not. But do you know what? A massive kudos to the guys at Battlefront and Dust for attempting it, to try and make sure that they can kind of... It's like a win-win-win situation.
It's keeping life in the stores, keeping players happy, and getting their own bit themselves.
Yep. It's a massive relaunch for Dust. So I just think that is awesome. Now, Dust Tactics. If you've watched the demo game, you'll have seen that it's very straightforward. It's nice. It's quick. It's pretty killy. It is pretty killy. Dust Warfare takes on that and builds on it. So now, in Dust Warfare, you can start to think in terms of armies. Okay, you're now thinking platoon level armies. So you have the option of setting out your gaming table, 6x4, 8x4. This is another reason why we're building this awesome city table, is because I want to play my Dust in Berlin. So I'm going to have, this is going to be Gothic for my 40k, but it's also going to be basically a busted up Berlin or a busted up city that my Dust stuff's going to battle across. World War II, John.
I know.
Well, it's sort of World War II.
Which I know is a little bit weird and offends your sensibilities a little bit, but me and you do love them. So I want to give you a little bit of an idea. Over the coming weeks, we'll be getting into the Dust rules, and we'll be looking more detail at Battlefield and showing you some of the cool stuff that you can do, because there are some fantastic, I don't want to call them advanced rules, but expanded rules for Battlefield. We're at a crunch point for you Warfare players. I've laid it out as I understand it, what the situation is. So you've now reaching a choice where, is Battlefield the way for you to go? You're going to get the same experience. So you're going to be able to field your big armies and stuff like that. But you're not going to have to be waiting around for updates to Warfare and stuff like that. And the game, if it's anything like is supported the way Flames of War is supported, and I can tell you that's basically their plan, you're going to be well looked after, because Flames of War players are some of the most pampered players in the business.
How many source books are there for Flames of War?
Oh, God.
Loads.
There are tons of source books. They get new releases of miniatures all the time. Their rules are beautiful, and the rule books and stuff that they're presented in are beautiful. And you know what? This book is no different. If this is where we're going with Dust rule books, I've got to say I'm excited, because as the book goes, it's laid out beautifully. So yes, you might be up on your Warfare. Yes, it's disappointing that Warfare wasn't able to come across, but I think Battlefield, provided we like the game, I think Battlefield is going to take us to a whole new level. So if you love your Dust and you're willing to, to make that transition, give Battlefield a go, get on that Kickstarter, get yourself a new rulebook. For those of us that haven't got into Dust, I'm going to take some time now to actually have a quick look through some of the boxes and show you what the Dust hobby is like. Okay, so I want to kick off, as always, with the German starter set.
Right, well, quick question. Will we crack open all three at the same time? Because that way we're making them
Go
live
for
at
it.
the same time?
Crack them open, boys. So these are your starter sets. This is what you could win in this episode, okay? So in the starter set, once you've opened it up, you find this. You've got all your troops in there, and you've got your walker in there as well. Now, I want to whip the walker out because they are where it starts to get really cool. So this, let me put it together. Dust stuff comes basically pre-assembled. You would put the things like the weapon options and things like that on, but it's all coming pre-assembled and pre-primed. And as I told you, it's already articulated. So there's lots of little articulation points. Do you want to see something very sexy? Look at that walker's, there's articulation in the knees, John. So how cool is that? So that is the standard walker that comes in the German starter set. I can't remember the name of it.
Ludwig.
It's called the Ludwig, yeah. You get the Dust Tactics starter rules, okay? So all you need to play Dust Tactics is in the box. If you want to play Dust Battlefield, then go on out and get yourself the rulebook, okay? You have the cards and objective cards in there, and you have your line troopers. Now, as I said, it comes pre-primed, not pre-painted. You can actually buy Dust pre-painted, professionally painted, and it looks exactly like they have on the box. But what you do is you buy that directly from Dust Studio, where one of their professional painters actually paints it up and sends it to you, and it costs an awful lot more. For the rest of us, we can get the pre-primed stuff that has the wee transfers and stuff on, and then all we have to do is just do what's called weathering. And we have a treat in store for you there, because myself and John are working on a new show which will be coming into Backstage very soon, called Dust to Dust, where we're going to be taking...
It's a very morbid title,
I think it's brilliant, because what it is, it's all about weathering of cool dust vehicles, okay? So it'll be about adding dust to dust.
Yep.
So, dust to dust. I could have called it heart to heart, John. But, you know, that would probably be a bit more creepy.
Wouldn't have worked.
Anyway, fire me over your walkers, guys. I want to
Here
see
is
them.
the pounder for the American.
This is the pounder for
Trust you to pick one called
for the Americans. And again, all articulated. So let me just show you that piece there is articulated. The turret on the top, it is based on a Sherman, John.
No, it's not.
Is that not a Sherman turret on that?
No.
What turret's that from?
The turret's from nothing, but the upper hull is sort of...
M5 Stuart-ish?
It's Stuart-esque, yeah. Well done.
Well
Yeah,
done.
I know,
well
I'm
done.
learning. After years of relentlessly trying to teach me about tanks, I'm finally learning something.
Years of torment.
Justin, you're really freaking me out now.
I know.
So there's articulation points on all of the weapons and
lights.
on the little lights and things like that.
Yeah.
John, what have you got?
The Russian one, the Grandma,
The Grandma.
which is, when I think about it, not a very Russian name, but I can imagine them calling it anyway.
Would it not
So the
be
Grandma
Babushka?
is kind of a suit, okay?
Yeah.
And it has articulation points at the arms, and
That's pretty much it. It's sort of fixed into that pose, but the arms are movable.
it's kind of funky, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is kind of funky. Yeah. So we have always looked at Dust, myself and Lloyd especially looked at Dust from the point of view of it being the easiest game to get into for people that don't have much time.
Yeah.
Okay? And that's one of the things a lot of us struggle with is time. The other aspect is money. Mm-hmm. Things can cost. Mm-hmm. Well, there's been news on that front as well.
Right.
Okay. Due in part to the Kickstarter, there's been a price adjustment on Dust. Yeah. Two price adjustments. One is they've managed. There's been a general kind of like a price drop.
Nice.
That's been introduced because of the success of the Kickstarter. They're able to actually lower the prices on stuff. But they've also made a commitment. Do you know the way prices for things as you go all around the world
fluctuate everywhere?
Some people get shafted.
Yeah.
Okay.
Australia.
Hi, Australia.
Australia gets shafted. The UK gets shafted. Or the Americans get shafted. Somebody gets shafted. Mm-hmm. Battlefront and Dust have committed to completely reworking it. So there's been what is a fairly hefty price drop on dust stuff all around the world, so nobody gets the raw end of the stick.
Nice.
Okay? And get this, a pre-assembled, pre-primed tank from dust
Are we about to mention a number?
now costs less than a Lehman Russ.
What?
Yep. So it now costs less than a Lehman Russ. Now, how cool is that?
Yep.
Very nice.
So, for those of us that have time issues, the fact that this stuff all comes pre-primed and pre-assembled, I think is great, because you crack it open, you can put it on your gaming table that night. It comes with a kind of like a little map for the
Yep, I have it here.
tactics side. So let me just open that up. So
And you also get your 44-page rulebook.
yeah, so there's a plain side to the map, and then on the other side, there's a side with buildings and things like that that you can play in. But let's be honest, the map is interesting maybe for your first 2 games, but really we all want to be getting stuck into Battlefield where we start whipping out our terrain, our forests and our buildings and things. I want to see some big tanks. So,
Koenigs Luther.
okay, so this is your kind of your standard kind of little walkers,
No. Oh, well, yeah.
okay?
And I'm going to open up.
Yeah, now we're into the big stuff. So whenever you decide that you want to get into this hobby and you think to yourself, but I want to see some really big stuff, now you're going to see it. So this is what you get when you open the box. And this is a picture of what's inside. So that's it, professionally painted. That's what it's going to look like when you pop it out of the box. And look at this. So,
Do you remember talking about my shiny syndrome?
yes.
Yeah.
Is your shiny
My shiny
syndrome
syndrome's it's tingling, yeah. I need one of those.
Oh,
That's very nice.
oh, John.
Give me
Look
the
at
guns.
this.
Give me the guns.
So here's points of articulation in there, so you can move it around. Sometimes I struggle a little bit to know where these bits and pieces go. So let's see. We have. Oh, would you look at the size of that weapon?
What the hell?
That.
That's obscene.
That's ridiculous.
So,
Yeah, I thought something was
here we
quite
go.
big
Let's
on this.
Put that in there.
So yeah,
And that goes on there like that. Let me just take the weapon off for a second. So that goes
oh,
there.
it's like a
Yeah.
pack.
So that goes on top. That goes on there. That's the ammo feed
Yep.
at the back. And then that comes in here. Let me just. Oh, it's just so nuts, isn't it?
Yeah, well,
So-
I've finished this one,
Right, give me that one. I
which
want it.
is the
And there we have it. It's so big I can barely fit it all on the screen. But look at that. You know, that is just terrifying.
I think you no longer love the 88s, Warren. Whatever those are.
These are the 88s here,
Yeah.
okay? I'm a big fan of 88s. I learned all about them in Flames of War for the win. They're a devastating weapon. I was going to say, are those 88s when I saw the box? But clearly they're not.
No, that's something a bit more hefty.
So the whole background of Dust is it takes place in an alternative World War II where the war hasn't ended. So it picks up from 1947 on. Everything's went nuts. There are kind of like augmented guerrillas. There are Nazi zombies. There are
Big ass walkers.
big GIs with cigars in their mouth that go, "So bitch!" It's got everything. It's got absolutely everything. And John, what about that? Look at
Sturmkonig.
that.
I assume that's an anti-air variant.
Yes.
In fact,
or just real ground overkill.
possibly.
Now, the game has tanks, it has flyers, it has troops galore. It's already pretty fully fledged. And if this Kickstarter goes as well as we think it might go, the volume of stuff that could end up coming out the other end would be absolutely obscene. So, we're giving away 2 starter sets. Okay? And all you have to do to be in with a chance of winning one of those, or winning both of those starter sets, one for you and one for a mate, is comment below. I want you to comment what about Dust. What do you think of it? You know, is it something that you're likely to get into? You know, have you any questions about Dust? You know, because what we can do is maybe organize a follow-up live chat with the developers to talk about Dust, to talk about where they're headed. So if you've got questions below that you'd like us to put to the developers and get a whole live thing going, post them below.
Right.
If you post on YouTube, you get 1 entry. If you post on Beasts of War, you get 1 entry.
Okay.
If you post on both, well, you're going to get 2 entries.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to ask.
So it's open to our YouTube subscribers and it's open to our Beasts of War subscribers. And you know what? We may also put a link to this show on Facebook. And if you post on Facebook as well, you're in with 3 shots. So we will pick a random winner from somewhere between beastsofwar.com, YouTube, and Facebook. Can't say fairer than that, really.
Nope, you can't.
So, guys, there we have it. Is this been possibly the best gaming Saturday of our lives?
Quite possibly.
Have 40k 7th edition in the arms of a postman.
That you're still
somewhere.
waiting on.
I am still waiting on it. We have Dust potentially doing the relaunch of the year.
And if I'm right, the Kickstarter, it's going into the Africa campaign, yeah?
Yes, Kickstarter's taking us into the Africa stuff, which is fine, but let's be honest, for all of us, we'll probably just make up a bunch of our own scenarios and fight them out. You know? I don't care where the things are from. I just care about how cool they look.
Fair point. Fair point.
I have to admit, having looked at Dust in its previous iterations, the pictures didn't give any of the big German stuff any justice.
Yeah.
I didn't know how big that was until we opened the box and just went,
Isn't
it's
it
what?
shocking?
Yeah, the little
How do
rocket
you
looks
feel
pretty-
about it now that we've been able to crack it open and have a look at it?
Well, some of those German things might be coming home with me.
I highly expected that.
Yes, but John might mean disappearing home with him, never to see the light of day again.
They'll have to make their way back some way because we've got Dust to film, you know.
All
So, guys, if you're interested, why not hop on over to Beasts of War and subscribe to Backstage. Backstage is what keeps us alive, basically. Beasts of War couldn't continue to function if it wasn't for the Backstagers, because we just couldn't meet the bills for hosting servers, electric, power, cameras, and everything else. If you enjoy our free content, well, Backstage is what pays for that free content. And if you'd like more content, well, Backstage is the way to get more content. So if you want to see Beasts of War kicking around for years to come, Backstage is the best way to help us do that. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Tomorrow morning over on beastsofwar.com we have the XLBS, which is the extra long backstage version of this show, where it's a whole other episode of this show. So everything you've just watched is not in it. Everything's new. Why not hop over to beastsofwar.com tomorrow morning, that's Sunday mornings, and join us for XLBS. Guys, we hope you've enjoyed the show. I've certainly enjoyed waxing lyrical about 40k and Dust today.
Yep.
We'll hopefully see you tomorrow. Big thanks to John. Thanks as always to Justin. Happy gaming, guys.